The CDC says that the Delta variant of coronavirus is just as contagious as chickenpox. And get this, it could be spread by vaccinated people just as easily as those who are not yet vaccinated. Let's chat more about this with Dr. Michael Gonzalez, emergency medicine physician and assistant professor at Baylor College of Medicine. So, doctor, I remember having chickenpox. I was quite young. I was 5. But I remember how easily I got chickenpox. I just sat next to someone with it, didn't even touch her, and yet there I was 2 days later covered in spots. So when I heard this, I was incredibly concerned that the Delta variant could be spreading so easily. So what does this mean? Even if you are vaccinated, given that this variant spreads so easily from person to person?
Yeah, Kristen, that's a great question. I think all of us are extremely concerned at just how contagious this Delta variant appears to be, and we're learning more about it every single day. You're absolutely correct. The chickenpox example is something we're all familiar with in childhood, and even a passing contact was enough for certain people to get exposure to that. And that was the sort of advent of the chickenpox parties that people talk about still. We absolutely are very concerned about that at a boots on the ground level. And we are very, very concerned with the rapid spread of this Delta variant across the country, and particularly in areas where we see low vaccination rates.
So then should folks who are vaccinated essentially be out there perhaps trying to get a third dose? Now, I've seen a couple of headlines that suggest that a third shot of your vaccine could actually provide pretty effective immunity, I'll call it, against the Delta variant.
So that's the silver lining on this news, is that it does look like the vaccinations that we have out currently do provide some level of protection. And there's some industry-sponsored data that a booster shot could be even more protective and offer an even higher degree of protection to Delta. I think we have to wait and see. In the meantime, the precautions that people really need to take are encourage everyone that you know, family, friends, neighbors, everyone to get vaccinated, those that have been resistant to it to this point. There is protection in the vaccines that we have out there. Continue to mask up. I know that is frustrating, and I know some people have said that, the CDC guidelines are confusing, but medicine is full of examples of things changing, treatments changing as we learn and as we know more. So those are really the best things that we can do. Encourage people to get vaccinated and really follow these new CDC guidelines to mask up indoors, even if you're vaccinated, and to avoid high-risk areas.
We were just showing on the screen the vaccination rates around the country. If we can just bring that chart back up again, because everyone can see, at least on the map, the lighter colors representing areas that are not as highly vaccinated. Everyone can see there on the charts that the southeast of the United States, Texas, Florida, these are areas where we have very low vaccination rates. I'm curious to know, doctor, if you think that particularly in some of these states that there needs to be some sort of reimposing of restrictions yet again.
Yeah, I think that absolutely, Kristen. I think we are all pushing locally to try and make headway in terms of increasing restrictions. We have made every possible effort reaching out to our communities to increase vaccination rates, but there's a high degree of hesitancy in terms of getting new vaccinations accomplished. So because of that, we really do have to turn to then potentially more restrictive measures in terms of either, I hate to start looking towards shutting down areas or public venues or things again, but this particular strain is extraordinarily infectious, as we just noted, as we just discussed. And I think if we don't take these proactive measures, we're going to be looking at wider measures that are going to be widely disruptive to both schools starting again in the fall, as well as travel and resuming our lives. We had a great honeymoon period over the summer, but those of us in the clinical world watched COVID and Delta start exposing its sort of strains and underlying infectiousness in other parts of the world. And we've been sort of holding up a caution sign. And now we need to really hold up a stop sign and say we really need to pay attention to this.
Really quick, doctor, you mentioned that back to school season. We only have about 30 more seconds, but I'm curious to know how concerned you are about back to school, especially for those students that are under the age of 12 and cannot yet get vaccinated, particularly as we're seeing some of those areas in the South where there's already low vaccination rates among adults, given this Delta variant surge and spread around the country.
Yeah, I have children in that age group. So I speak not only as a clinician, but as a parent. I have kids in that age group, and we are really looking very closely at what our local school district is doing. And they are trying to bring back mask up requirements. But quite frankly, we have state leadership that is making that quite difficult, particularly in Texas, as you noted.
All right, we're going to have to leave that there. Dr. Michael Gonzalez, emergency medicine physician, assistant professor at Baylor College of Medicine. Good seeing you as always.